All right, it is 7 o'clock. We'll call the Monday, June 9th, 2025 Select Board meeting to order. I think we have an amendment to the agenda, Kevin.
We do, related to a donation to the town
Okay,
for a dozen tree trails.
we will add that new business 6B. Please help me remember when I get there.
And I don't have paperwork, but I have a concept about a potential grant that we could yeah. Planning grant.
Okay, so we'll put 6C down
Thank you.
as
I'll be more eloquent
Ben's thoughts when he gets to it.
and get
Did
that.
you eat dinner? Ben?
No,
Problem.
That's the problem. Your brain's not fed.
I know.
Just so you know, Rufus didn't feed me either, so, because he's in graduation, so I'm,
You're starving.
You're in
too.
the same boat.
yeah, so.
I'm gonna have to stuff my briefcase with protein bars or something for you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Then we'll move on to the minutes for the previous meeting, May 27th, 2025. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Moved by Tor,
Second.
seconded by Ben. Did anyone see anything needs altering? They were pretty succinct.
It's the goal.
Yeah.
You remember the video is really the true
Record.
record of the meeting.
All right, then seeing no changes, all in favor? Passes for nothing
Well, what else?
with one absent. All right, do we have any public comments on items not on the agenda tonight? I'm looking at you two. Nope, okay. Seeing none, then we'll move on to, what's that?
Yeah, but the dates are wrong again in the open warrant.
This was printed before, that was corrected.
Mike, that date's just gonna haunt you.
I am a stickler for details.
Nope, that's good, that's good. All right, unfinished business 5A, the 2026 budget. I assume we're talking about in relation to the annual town
Who's
meeting.
doing what for the annual town meeting?
All right, we have more sections this year than,
Well, we separated out public services and community services. They used to be one, they're
Yep.
now two, and we also created Harbor.
right,
Specifically because Apple Harbor, and we aren't recognizing the true costs and revenues generated.
right. Hey, Rob.
You're on the agenda now. No. I think the field planners want to be here on Wednesday. Yeah, sorry, I did know that.
About solar here,
Batteries down there. Oh, solar there, all of it.
okay. Because the solar's not, we're not getting credit for it yet, right?
Not, it looks good, but it's not doing it.
Yeah. All right,
Sorry, so yeah, we've added Harbor and we split out public services and community services.
so we have general
Yep.
government, public services,
Page 5 of your packet.
community service. Oh, you have them all listed?
Yep.
That's right, we did.
Or 9.
So does 9.
I suggested one select board take one category, everybody else takes 2.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's see what goes together really.
That's this sequence top down, is that how it's in article? Or-
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so
So
I don't know.
I'm gonna be up there talking about Article 5 anyway. That's what I always do.
Alright, which one's that?
That's the electronic keypad voting.
Oh, okay.
So I'm happy to roll right on and do 6. If no one else really wants to do it.
Oh, you're looking at
Just
starting right out with general government.
Yeah. Unless someone else wants
So,
to. Just say,
We just do sequence 1, 2.
what do you?
What do you want to use?
I'm just looking at what's in these things, public service.
So public services is 7.
I mean, that's a short one. I can do that. I'll do that and take something else. Oh, we've got community services. Right,
Your community services are all the
Right.
agencies.
Yep.
And it is really explaining to the public that this is our attempt to pass this to you to make that decision.
Right.
All of these all of these organizations have either in the past gone and collected the signatures, or if they wanted increases, collected the signatures for this. You might be prepared to say which ones are increasing.
All right. You know, the next one, I'll do public services then.
That does not like, okay, so Karen, you're doing Article 7.
We want to bounce around or just do a couple in a row? I don't know what would be easier for,
Do you want to do Article 8? Community services?
sure, why not? We might have some discussion on some of those.
Oh,
Like community service.
Community services, yeah.
I'll take Article 9 too, and that's my 2.
I think that's.
Planning and
So-
development.
Yeah.
Mhm, yep.
Tom,
Tom,
feel free to
public
jump
safety.
in, but I'm just saying, public safety.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with public safety.
Yeah. Oh, who wants 11?
Public works.
Or it gets 11. Why? You didn't give it to Rufus.
I know.
No, that's not, no,
Just getting
Yeah.
reserves.
it's reserves. We can give them reserves.
That's all we're giving him?
It's plenty of a hot topic, because it might come down to what happens. to-
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't have to be that mean. But we can. So who's got 12?
Which
Columbus
is-
Harbor.
Harbor.
I mean, the harbor and debt service are both short and easy. So you can combine them with somebody who's already got 2. Unless we don't want to saddle him with transfer to reserves. I missed the meeting.
Can you do Harbor?
Yeah, I can do Harvard.
Alright. Should I do transfer?
No, you do debt service.
Debt service.
Treat the Rufus with transfer.
Yeah, okay, good.
Okay.
I'll give them a hand. Yeah. And then if you have questions or want to run through what you're preparing, happy to discuss. Thank you all for taking that lift.
Mhm.
No problem. And the meeting starts at
6 o'clock,
6.
the open town meeting
So,
Down.
in the cafeteria of Lincoln Academy.
Yeah.
Yep.
and we want to be there, need to be there a little earlier. Setup is, do we need help with setup? Is that going to be,
Oh, all set.
they'll be set?
Yeah.
So be there a little early.
Yeah.
Okay. See what happens. 6 o'clock. All right, that was easy.
Not gonna make tacos for that event though.
No.
No. All right, new,
What does setup look like?
Similar to last year,
like
Yeah.
last year, yeah.
chairs face the board will sit up front along with the moderator and the clerk and myself. And other staff will be on deck in case there's questions. And there'll be a public mic for anyone to speak to.
Peter's gonna be there.
Peter will be there.
Yep.
Gentleman from Jim has done moderating, Dan Scott is also moderating for us.
Okay.
He'll be there too. Be there tomorrow morning,
Oh,
first thing.
Jim.
Jim Gallagher is
Yeah.
moderating?
No, the Yale State Agent. Cosgrove.
Cosgrove.
Thank
Thank you.
Cosgrove.
There, it's out there. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, and tomorrow is the ballot.
Tomorrow is the ballot questions. There's two that are, I mean, there's no state ballot requirements. It's 9 to 6 is voting. Michael, are you able to come early enough to either vote in Jim as our moderator? Are you bringing donuts? Just want to check. I don't know if you got Shelley's message. Okay.
How many, you need 3, right?
Need 3 residents. I think we have enough with Michael.
Oh, okay, great.
What's that? To vote in our moderator. You need at least 3 residents to be there to do that.
Oh, wait, for the election?
Tomorrow morning for these So annual town meeting is an event that occurs over the course of 2 days. It doesn't actually, there's no recess. Or there's a break in between, and it's over the course of a week. So tomorrow is the start of the annual town meeting and it's the secret ballot portion of it. So there's a couple of questions that get asked as part of the secret ballot. And then it sort of just goes into pause until Monday night when we go into the open meeting portion of the event. Sure.
Sorry, you had to give me a civics lesson.
I-
Okay.
Look, I'm learning too. You know, my
I
first
didn't realize
iteration
that
of
was an issue, okay.
open town meeting was Gilmore Girls, so
Okay,
It's a
great,
good learning tool.
it was.
okay,
So,
okay, great, thank you for warning me, so.
Yep, just need at least 3 residents to show up in the morning to point you.
You already get the other two, the other two.
Shelley and Michelle and Sam have taken care of all of logistics,
Good, good, good.
mostly setting up this room tonight after this meeting.
Okay, excellent. Great, I guess I should add one more item to old business then, 5B. Just an update, we've got the Mocha Cemetery thing coming.
It's in my manager's report.
Okay. Then we don't need to discuss it until then. So we don't have a 5B, sorry, we have 6B. All right, then, new business, 5A Build Main.
Yeah, so last Tuesday and Wednesday, we actually had, Newcastle had the greatest representation of any municipality at the event, but Tuesday was a.
Most speakers.
Most speakers, yeah, we had, unfortunately, they were concurrent presentations, so. One particular staff member from Newcastle decided not to go on Tuesday specifically so he didn't have to show where his loyalty lies.
Oh, is that why?
Oh, man.
Yeah, well, I think he also felt bad about missing Wednesday and not working in Damascus, so he worked in Damascus on Tuesday, and it's fine.
Yeah.
We'll give them up to that.
I'm giving him a pass. Hopefully they recorded it, someday it'll be available, I don't know. Anyway, so 3 select board members attended, 4 staff members attended. So I just thought it'd be important to take a little time to debrief the event. We don't typically have an opportunity to do that with a kind of a light agenda. I thought it would be helpful to. You know, were there things that really stood out to you as select board members who were able to attend? Are there things that we should be thinking about as part of our larger discussion on priorities for the next year? Anything from that is related to it that should be addressed? Those kinds of things is what I thought maybe this little time could be used for. I did ask the staff members who attended, including our intern who attended, you know, were there things that you saw or heard that resonated with you or you'd like to see the board consider for exploring, and I have a few notes from them. I gotta start with you guys.
It was pretty apparent that it was a little sledgehammer over the head. Development needs to be downtown. If the town wants to survive financially because of the increasing taxes, and the best place to concentrate it is in the village or in a downtown. That was resounding from every speaker who talked.
So I have a suggestion, because Kevin, you already have it in your file, that presentation that you made on Tuesday, I think that would be great to bring to select board at some point.
As in presentation,
Yeah, just as a,
the real big caveat that I do not recommend we do what I said we should do in there, or shouldn't do.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no,
It's an example.
I think just as as an agenda item one night and just review it and say, you know, yeah, this is what I presented to Build Maine, but this was the instance of it. But I think it was a great presentation. Specifically looking at one of our roads, so.
And it helps us understand why developing downtown in a higher density is the answer to a lot of future possible problems.
Hmm.
So
Okay,
And I didn't get to see it.
that's true.
I didn't get to see yours.
So. That'd be awesome.
All right,
David,
You already know it.
they don't know everything. I'm learning, always learning.
I think my biggest takeaway was, and there were great speakers from all over the United States.
Yep.
And And I like that some of them actually did their research and tailored their statistics and their metrics and everything to local Maine current data.
Yep.
Which was fantastic. So it wasn't just sort of, you know, pie in the sky stuff. It was grounded in real numbers, which.
Right, this is California, this is Arkansas, this is
Yeah.
Boston, nope,
Yeah.
they related it to me.
Exactly, they related it, wonderful. But I think the biggest takeaway was that, you know, whether they were talking about parking, or they were talking about infill and greater density in downtowns, or they were talking about all the legislative bills, things like that. I just kept hearing over and over that Newcastle is ahead of the curve. And we got a lot of what was the word that I kept using on the day? Just it felt good, like just to hear that we're thinking about these things.
Mhm.
These aren't new ideas. So it was good affirmation, I guess.
Right.
That most of the ideas weren't necessarily new to some of us. But we've already like been not only talking about them for a long time, but enacting some of them, so. that
Like
was
the
great.
parking,
The parking one was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy, he was a good speaker, he had a lot of good little anecdotes and thought his slide deck was great. But every time he'd show something and he'd make like a specific point, we'd be like, yeah, we did that.
Mhm.
You know, kind of like Chuck.
well, and the gist of it was, for people who weren't there, that most codes require way too much parking for any particular business use, whatever, yeah.
One of his ones was bowling alley, and
Right.
where parking spots necessary for bowling alley.
For spots
For-
per lane,
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
yeah, that was crazy. So that was really good to see. They're trying to get people to move more towards shared parking and less parking, because generally we don't need as much
Rated
parking.
more parking than we have cars.
Yep. Yep.
And cars tend to sit with nobody in them for a long period of time, and one site might need it in the morning or during the workday, and one might need it for restaurants in the
Yep.
evening, and one might need it for overnight for for people who live in the area, so it's like.
Yep.
How do you share common parking spaces?
Mhm.
Right now, the town office is a great example. Shuck Station is cranking.
Yeah.
All of our town office parking spaces are full of patrons that are over at the Shuck Station.
Fortunately, it's happening at like 2. I gotta do a little more enforcement.
Yeah. What did the staff, did they have anything in particular that was?
No, I think, you know, you kept hearing things like, Joe Minicozzi's Urban Free, Michael brought that up again. So Joe Minicozzi has a company out of, I think, North Carolina, Urban Free, and he does these incredible visual representations of, cost per acre.
Was that the
Copper, yeah,
the-
those
the-
Just
visual.
the heat maps.
Yeah.
heat maps? Yeah,
Yeah, or the
kind of.
little mini city maps,
Yep.
like this, the little parcel in your downtown generates per acre. Much more value for your town.
Right.
Raises more taxes per acre than your cul-de-sacs or your rural spaces, and it's just a cognizant reminder, like. If you want to have value to help pay to keep your rural areas rural. Then you do need to identify those opportunities for density in the downtown. Build up, not out.
Mhm.
This infrastructure is expensive. And you have to find a way to subsidize those costs without having to then just raise taxes to do it across the board.
What was the guy's supposition was that most towns would be bankrupt by 2060 because of infrastructure costs if they didn't develop the downtowns.
Yep. Yeah.
It's not a good statistic.
Nope. Yeah,
So.
that was Jim Tischler who I presented with.
Mhm.
He had such great big picture concepts, and it's like, how do you take this complex subject and nail it down and drive it home to Maine,
Mhm.
into a small town like Newcastle. So
Yep.
it was a good opportunity to try to understand. He works for the state of Michigan, and he works for the governor's office, so he's, got a bigger role and responsibility and doesn't necessarily can translate it down to that local level, so. He was happy to see what I was able to do, and that's why we presented together.
It's good.
I wonder what what's involved with doing one of those heat maps for Newcastle. That would be a
Um,
really nice tool.
Well, it's funny because
Yeah, it is
part of the
funny.
networking thing that we did right after the meeting, or after the conference on Wednesday. We met a young man who's an interning, or he's a student at the University of Maine, the Muskie School.
Uh-huh.
He's a GIS,
Guru.
yeah, we'll call him Guru.
Wonk.
Wonk. He's willing to take our data and help us develop some visual representation of what we could or should be doing.
That's part of his work.
Yeah, part of
the
the
school,
grad school
yeah.
work.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's already been in touch.
That's
Yeah,
That's
I have
great.
his email.
That'd be great.
I own data, so
Good.
we're gonna explore some of this, see if we can do it on the. See what he can produce and develop, and if not, we can always reach out to Joe. See if he'd be.
Using that as kind of an example or sample or
Yep.
kind of new. Yeah, I think that's a really clever way of illustrating.
Yeah.
The issue, you know.
Yeah. And like when we start talking about this, assuming Thomas is still on the board come tomorrow. You have any competition?
Not
You
that
know-
I'm aware of.
Okay, so if we have the same board and we go into this priority discussion, is it some of the efforts to focus on that economic development have, like, is time spent there instead of on some of the other things that we have, but
Right.
it does take some time to coordinate.
It was a good conference.
Yeah.
It was very
Yeah.
informative.
I'm glad you were all able to join, participate.
Right, so now we have our 6B tree donation.
Yes, so I received a letter from one of our residents this morning about wanting to donate some trees.
Mhm.
And that resident happens to be in the room at this moment.
Who might
Wow,
that
would you like to
be?
come up and have a chat conversation? So the letter that he sent is in the town manager report. Attachment.
So, basically, I've been doing the housing project on Mills Road, 16 Mills Road, and as part of the budget for that project, it was planning on doing some landscaping, particularly on the northern edge, the far edge from town, to shield both the immediate neighbor and the rest of the neighborhood from, the development. As we've all learned, the town ended up owning a strip of land that goes to the parcel behind, that comes to Mills Road. We ended up executing a number of easements reciprocally, to be able to use the combined strip of 20 feet owned by 10 Mills Road, Newcastle LLC, and 20 feet owned by the town, to be able to enable access to the back of the lot behind. So it seems to me that it doesn't really make sense for me to plant trees on that parcel that then ends up being in the way of a future access lane. So it makes more sense to plant that screening on the edge of the town-owned parcel to protect the rest of the neighborhood.
Which would line with the telephone,
Pretty much, yeah, it would be in line with the power pole that CMP placed on the town line. And so it basically being in line with that, going back, be a mix of cedars and taller maple trees, just to give sort of a low and high screen. And in talking with Kevin, he felt that it would be inappropriate for me as a private citizen to be planting trees on town land. It makes more sense to donate the cost of doing that, and then the town can contract in. And I think, as Kevin said in his report, it really makes sense to try to do that and coordinate when my contractor is going to be on site, because they've got equipment right there, rather than paying someone to mobilize to plant the trees. It's just going to be much more efficient. So bottom line, that's what the proposal is. I think I've got an estimated cost in there, and so as I nail down what the cost would be, that would be the donation, so there's no cost to the town.
Is it a different cedar? I've got a cedar tree in front of my house. It's massive.
So it's the plan is to do a species that, will not get real wide. Cause yeah, we don't wanna, we wanna, it won't get as tall as some, but it won't, it'll stay more narrow, so that's why it's kind of a mix of the cedars to be the low screen.
Mhm.
And then some maples to be a little higher. Look at that exactly for that reason, because yeah, they can take it over.
They can. Oh, sounds good. So that would leave. Once the screening's planted, that leaves a with about what, the roadway or the driveway?
Well, I mean, I don't know, it's a good question what the cedars, when they're mature, what their width would be, but. I'm sure it's gonna be less than 10 feet, but if, let's say it was as much as 10 feet, then that would leave 10 feet on the town land and 20 feet. So that would leave still 30 feet
Okay.
to, free and clear for an access way,
Okay.
so
Oh,
I think there's plenty of room.
So you, so 10 feet from the line to. There'd be a 10 feet zone where the trees would be planted.
But, or, yeah, I mean, I think,
Yes.
I think it'd be less than that, but I'm just sort of saying maximum, like, I'm not sure what the width was, but if they, 20 years from now, if nobody ever prunes them, I don't know, maybe they'll be 10, maybe they'll be 10 feet wide, I'm not sure.
Yeah, okay.
That's sort of, but so to be, I would say minimum 30 feet, and so I don't think they take up that much space, especially. if they're
Yeah,
for-
the only thing I'm gonna make this comment to think about is that in the future, if there's a drive lane that's paved. Going through there. Vehicles are a little bit, they're sensitive to covering the roots. So if, if we have mature trees there and we end up putting a roadway on top of their root system, they might not like that, but.
Right.
So just, I guess, keep that in mind.
Right, yeah, no, that's true. I mean, think that the part of the idea is that you've got those big mature maples there now and sort of to, maintain that sort of feel of that portion of the road.
Yeah.
That's the thinking, 'cause I mean, as those trees age, I'm gonna wanna plant, new trees to maintain that, because that row of trees is such a defining
It is.
piece of that property in that part of Mills Road.
Yeah.
So you don't have to replace them anytime soon. Put some
No,
old spindly maple out there, won't be the same.
No, and I think, and they, we're planning on doing some treatment to them. I mean, it's been, having construction nearby isn't great for them, but they look like they're pretty healthy still, and so.
Yeah.
I think they're gonna outlast me at least. I'm not sure about everybody else, but.
So I didn't look at your letter, but your donation includes some care for the first year to get them.
Yeah, I
Make
mean,
sure
it
they stay
doesn't,
alive.
it didn't explicitly do that,
Yeah.
but yes, I mean, obviously. Putting there, we will have spigots on the side.
Which really just means watering them. But
Exactly, yeah, so no, that's a big part of the reason I expect having spigots on
yeah.
the side of the building to be able to keep landscaping going.
Cool.
Good.
Thank you, Rob.
So,
Just need you to
make a
accept.
motion.
Yeah.
Go back up to the top here.
Sorry, there's no links in my manager report.
That's okay. It's not so long that we can't, it's not 80 pages, so we can scroll. All right, then do I have a motion to accept the donation from 16 Mills Road, Newcastle LLC?
Yeah, so moved.
Moved by Tor,
Second.
seconded by Ben. Any other questions? Then all in favor? All right, this is 4-0.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks for coming to explain, saving me having to do it.
Thank you.
And it's,
Yeah.
when that goes up, that'll start to really look like things are,
Yeah, no, and hopefully
Drawing to a close.
the front porches should be going on in the next couple of weeks, so. Yeah, the things are getting closer.
good. That must feel good.
It'll be really good when it's.
When people are moving in, that'll be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good, thank you.
Rob.
Thanks.
All right, so, new business 6C, did you think of what
Yep.
that is now?
I think I got it. So, at Build Maine, Build Maine in collaboration with Downtown Skowhegan, released or introduced the Maine Place Code Library. And, that is, being funded by a grant from the DECD. And after Build Maine, I learned that, there's a timeline involved, but if, any towns would like to take advantage of some free training, free, code help, in collaboration or with you using, the place code, they may do so, with a simple letter of intent, which we have to have by Friday.
Okay,
So there are a bunch of people that are interested in, at Build Maine, and I talked to a lot of people about it. But since, it originated here and, we were one of the towns, one of the 3 or 4 towns that originally signed on was a,
Letter of support.
yeah, it was a letter of support, I think, for the project when
DCD grant round. That was last, it was last.
it was last year,
It
right?
was last
It was
year.
last year, yeah.
Yeah.
We're trying to offer all of those 3 or 4 towns sort of, first pick. If we pass, move on to the next one. And then
pass what?
if Newcastle decides they don't want,
Oh, pass on it.
yeah, if we
Okay.
pass on it, we'll go and find other towns. Because I don't think it'll be a problem, but, since we were meeting tonight, I thought I'd bring it up. I don't have any paperwork.
What's the training?
It's to get training about the place code.
Yeah.
In the library, and then we also have money in the grant to actually do like a project of some sort of zoning calibration or add in something like, common things that towns typically would want or like a missing middle housing, zoning update for their downtown.
What's this? Who gets trained?
It would be, the training would be actually available to anyone. The idea would be to use it for like municipal officers, town
Okay,
planners,
yeah.
CEOs, things like that.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do by Friday then? A letter of intent stating what?
Yeah, so Kara's working on a letter of intent, which is a non-binding thing, and of course, there's no contractual obligation because it's free money. But the DEDC wants us to have something in writing, so all we would need to do tonight, and I'm gonna abstain because I'm involved heavily with it, is authorize Kevin to sign a letter of intent, and then that would reserve our place.
In the training or in the grant money?
Public outreach, using the grant money to do public outreach, which includes the training for staff and members of the public who are interested in learning more. Before we would look to implement any aspects of it,
Right.
understanding what placemaking.
Place code,
Place code.
types, all that,
Terms that are being used, understanding what those mean. And what those could potentially mean if we were to adopt any of those changes to our core zoning code at some future date.
Or it could be used, it could be used in other creative ways. I think the idea would be, the specific details would be hammered out between, staff and building, about where the needs were actually.
So I'm just curious, is there a dollar value to this grant, or is it just
Um,
time and training?
There is a dollar value, I'm not sure what it is, but it's in the realm of 5 to 10 grand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
For a minimum of 3 towns.
And there are other towns that you know of that want to do this, easy.
Yeah, there's a couple, like we had approached Gardner, they were one of the ones that offered a letter of support, and unfortunately, they're having some trying times in Gardner right now. They went through a 6-month search for a new town manager who last week put in their notice after less than 4 months.
It's a tough town.
It's a tough town, and they're on their 4th town manager in 2 years.
Oh, wow.
No further comment.
No further comment. So, yeah, they're not gonna bite. Yes.
This question is, so could this technical support be used to address something in our code
Mhm.
that we have a list of things that might want to be addressed, so it could be basically technical support to use the ideas from the place code to amend, propose an amendment to our code to work on some of the things we haven't done.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Ideally, it would be used to sort of further the ends of the DECD aim of the grant, which was it's all about housing. It's all about housing.
Okay.
It's,
Okay.
you know, how do we create better zoning so we create better housing outcomes, make the process a lot easier, and we've done a lot of that work in Newcastle. There's always more to do.
Right.
But yeah, it absolutely can be used for that. Yeah. And one of the things that Build Maine and Downtown Skahee and the project, you know, the Maine Place Code Library is trying to do is create those modules. So that, for different sort of use case scenarios for towns to easily update their zoning without having to reinvent the wheel with a different planner every single time. So yeah,
And sorry.
Okay.
Just a question, the place code library. It's in essence, a virtual library. It's not like a place, right?
it is not a physical place.
Right, yeah.
Yes, it is a library of code.
Could you simply describe the relationship between the Newcastle Core Zoning Code and the Place Code Library?
The Newcastle Core Zoning Code is a derivative of the ancestor of the Maine Place Code Library. Yeah. So the original place code was developed in tandem with Newcastle's original character code. And then was heavily modified to become the core zoning code in Newcastle. And then the place code went on to do a couple more other iterations, and then it's been modified again and changed. So it's sort of more Maine and New England centric, but specifically Maine. Common ancestor.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, at its core, it's a building type form-based code.
So this needs to become another member of our list of priorities to talk about.
With a letter of intent to participate, that's your call. And
Yep.
then, from there, I would say, yeah, it gets added to the list of things that we're moving forward with.
Okay.
Yeah, I again, sorry for the short notice, but I literally just learned that Friday was the deadlines.
Well, I would assume Michael and Kara would be fairly involved with this.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then do I have a motion to allow the town manager to sign a letter of intent?
Yeah, so.
Oh, seconded. Moved by Tor, seconded by Tom. All in favor? Just three of us with one abstaining
Thank you.
and one absent. Okay. That's enough. Let's see. Move on to 7A, well, here, do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 25-26 AP warrant for $160,277.40. Moved by Tor, seconded by Tom. Did anyone have any questions or comments? I just had a question, Kevin or Tom. I was just curious because it didn't specify. What was the new fire equipment that was purchased for $5,000?
I think it's gas meters.
Gas meters?
Yeah, the 4 gas meters, the portable meters that you take into a building that check for a
Okay.
number of harmful gases.
And then the other question I had, because I'm just trying to learn this stuff, was fire department too. Equipment, vehicle maintenance, there were like a dozen different things. Did we have a dozen?
I think it's
pieces?
equipment, yeah, it's there. I think it was anything that was gas powered, like. Oh, there's numerous generators, portable pumps,
Okay,
all those sorts of things. It was pretty much just tune-ups at
Tune-ups, okay.
Phillips.
just the same, the prices are all over the
Yeah.
place, so they were all different size things.
Yeah,
Wonder
like
what
some of
things
them are
were.
the bigger pumps that are in the skids for the forestry trucks. Those I'm sure were probably more than just doing a little tiny suitcase generator or
Okay.
something like that.
Well, it's funny, they all ended up near together. Did anyone have any other questions? Right, then all in favor? All right, passes for nothing. I think we're on to you, Kevin, town manager report.
Town report is now available. I think everybody here got one, including everybody in the audience, so.
You can't miss this one,
No, you
color wise.
can't. And nice picture.
I just realized, oh, that's just sure.
Yeah, you fit right in.
They're available, they'll be available tomorrow here during the election. They're available at town office, even though town office will be closed tomorrow because all of the staff necessary to run this event are here. And are also the ones that typically take entry into the town office, but they'll be available in the town office starting Wednesday. And we'll have them at the open town meeting on Monday next week. It's also online, so there's a link in my manager report with a link to the electronic version. Big thank you to Shelley for organizing, compiling the report and getting it to the printer on time. And for her to put up with me in every last minute tweak or delay I had. And I say Chelsea at the LCN too for every last minute tweak and change. And of course, I'll talk a little bit about another one in this report in a minute. Mentioned election day. The office will be closed. The staff will be here. Polls will be open from 9 to 6 p.m. Typically during an election in June, we're open for 12 hours. So why are we only doing 12 is required for state when there's state election ballot items. And state statute says that a town must have at least 4 consecutive hours for non-state elections. We're not doing 12. I don't feel the need to do that, so I've agreed to 9 to 6. So hopefully you can get in and vote for our 2 article items. So election information, I'm not going to read all of this, but the 2 big articles are: shall the town use the referendum ballot voting for the 2026 annual town meeting for all warrant articles? And this is, the board talked about this, had a public hearing on March 24th about it. The idea here is we're asking the public to let the board know if next year they should take the action to put the article items on the warrant. Every year, the select board would have to make that decision because we don't have a charter specifying otherwise. So that's what state statute says. So we are just asking, do you want to do this in the future? We'll try it out next year. If the public says, yeah, give it a whirl. We can try it out next year and see how it goes. You can always reconsider in future years. So,
And trying to remember, we generally for our ballot portion of the town meeting have in the 300s
yeah,
people voting in numbers in the 300s.
Yeah.
So potentially 10 times.
more when there's a state issue that brings
Right.
in more interest, but yeah.
3 and up.
300.
So it's 10 times what the number of people that show up at the annual town meeting.
Yeah, well, and I pulled a little stat here. Last year, we had a couple of the item on articles, we had 38 people voting. So there
That
might
was
have
the
been other
max.
people attending, but there were 38 eligible voters at your last open annual town meeting. 38 represents 2% of your registered voters in Newcastle.
Right.
So, if we really want to get public participation, I don't know how to invite more people to a nice Monday night June meeting than to say, come vote for things, then just come on Tuesday the week before.
Yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow will be interesting, considering there's no state.
Yeah,
Issues.
yep. Might be a low turnout, but
That might be a little, I think a little.
so the other article item is raise and appropriate a sum of money not to exceed $900,000 for the capital road program through a loan agreement. And I tried to again go through the explanation. So this explanation and the one from the prior article are printed out, will be up on the board in here for the public to see. Really there's 3 focuses here: to borrow for one or all of the proposed capital road projects, and if so, have a discussion during the open town meeting about potentially reducing the capital road program by some amount to cover and let the bond borrow instead.
Mhm.
So if the bond doesn't approve tomorrow, you still have the money in the budget for next year. If the bond does get approved, there can be a discussion about maybe modifying that number.
Right.
There is still that outline, and that part of that strategy, like those large projects, long term should be shared by current residents and future residents. And that's kind of a long term strategy. So some of the smaller projects, sure, we'll pay for each year, but it's just trying to thinking about this a little differently going forward.
Mhm.
And then the last piece is the concern about the uncertainty with the state people's veto. process, and that's explained in the memo. It's explained in the memo from a very long drawn out memo from, I think that was May 12th meeting. There's a very large memo there that explained a lot of this too, so. Yeah, I'll stop there.
Well, no, wait,
Oh,
you're not gonna say it, I'll say it.
oh, yes,
The
yes,
actual, this is
That's-
important,
that is,
so
yeah,
if you. Are concerned about your property taxes increasing. Vote for the bond. That would allow us the opportunity next week to reduce. The amount. Needed to be raised in taxes. By a margin such that the increase in taxes would be negligible, 0.35%.
that would be if you were to borrow for all of the capital roads projects, the tax increase for next year would be 0.35%. I wouldn't advocate for that. My recommendation as town manager would be that you bond for the large project, which is about 600,000. And I wouldn't even, I would say you reduce the reserves by 350,000. Only because that gives you more room next year to take care of ongoing or smaller capital projects and the potential for additional bond needs at that time.
But even doing that. Reduces the potential tax increase.
Yes, from 9.08, which is currently what the budget is proposing, down to 3.52. So it really, I mean.
Yeah.
Not approving the bond tomorrow. Will result in a larger tax increase. And I still think it's important that we still recognize the risk related to people's veto. But it shouldn't be the all in, all out kind of approach. And I think we were more comfortable with having the bond as something that sat there and helped us. Before we knew what the school budget was and how that increase really impacted Newcastle property taxpayers.
You remember what the increase was before?
11.42%.
Well, that's,
I was proposing I was expecting it around 4 or 5.
no, that's what I'm saying, so that. The educational budget, just the education budget was 11.5% increase.
11.42,
But before, without that increase,
just the municipal.
the municipal increase was.
Once the select board
Five.
changed it, 5.82, 85, 5.85.
Okay, so a little less than 6, so, yeah. But. Thank you.
Yeah.
Those are important numbers to get out.
They are, and there's a link to the budget summary calculator. Please go in and play with it. You know, make your own thoughts about modifications to the budget, but. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, and I think when we get into priorities, this is something that we should talk about, which is. How do we bring the concept of bonding projects into the fold of our town, capital projects?
Yeah.
And how does that, because I don't think we're savvy, I don't think we're looking at that with, what value it brings to the residents now and how it massages out the tax burden for people today and spreads it out over time. And then and how does that mesh with our roads plans, our 5-year, 3-year plans for different roads projects? So I think we really have to get a handle on this and then understand how a little bit more about how bonding can mesh with our other, with all of our projects going on.
Yeah, well, as Jim Tischler taught me last week, I should be showing you a 40-year capital needs.
Yeah.
Outlay, and there are definitely some big projects that are gonna come down, even under the 5-year that was in the budget documents. The 5-year shows a couple of projects that are gonna be expensive.
Yep.
When we look to really address North Newcastle Road, that's gonna be a hefty cost. So that's one that I would recommend the town bonds for. But some of these smaller, short distance dead end roads, those are gonna continue to be the one-offs we include each year. But yeah, there's a balance, and I think it's important to also recognize how little Newcastle has borrowed, at least has on the books today, compared to your neighbors and towns across the state that are of similar size. So
Yeah,
I would happily present that information in future meetings.
yeah, and I think the point is this, is that. What this represents is not a one-off. But more of a philosophical shift in concept to how the town manages our debt.
All right, I just wanted to save time, and move on. You're right, it was important to talk about.
Sorry,
Yeah, it's all good. So
tragedy, it's important.
it is. Annual town meeting, part two, is the open town meeting portion, as I was mentioning just earlier. As I was reviewing everything for the, I don't know, 10th time, I noticed a bit of a glitch in the budget book. And I'm terribly sorry about this. And, so we went through this exercise where the board made changes to the budget, and you made those changes, and I applied those changes to the line items that are in your budget book. But when you look at a category, or not a category, but I call them object codes. So it's a grouping of line items. So operations and services within general government, it's number 25. That's the object code. You'll notice in the report, I soft highlighted one of the numbers that I changed, modified based on the board's changes. However, it didn't show up as a sum in the total for that object code. So that change didn't recognize. Now, the bottom line for the category added all of those object codes, which didn't add changes that I made. So there are 5 categories that have the incorrect numbers. Now, the summary shows the correct numbers, but in the book, it says for general government, it says 696,679, and it should be 689. 663, which is $7,000, $7,016 less. And if you go back and you look at the calculator, you can see the 3 things you changed sums up to $7,016. So it was just a matter of how the document we created did not sum the line items from the object code. That's the glitch that caused this error. How I addressed this error for next Monday. I'm talking to our attorney tomorrow. Because the way we've approached those questions, it's not shall the town raise a sum of. It's here it is, do you vote on it or not?
Yeah, we can't go up.
You can go down. So you can take care of general government, no problem, but you have several others that have an increase in
Can we not do a
handout.
handout
I'm
of the
gonna,
correct-
that's what I wanna do. I wanna verify what the appropriate way to address, procedurally way to address this.
Okay.
There was an error on my part and my part alone. But I will blame Michelle for taking vacation, so she couldn't verify and check my numbers before I submitted it. So I'm telling you, she's not allowed to take vacation during budget. season,
no more.
Ever again.
No, no more.
So,
He's phenomenal.
in the past, when this has happened, that's what we've done, is a handout right
Handout,
at town meeting.
okay.
When you get your book, you check in and just
Get a
like,
handout.
here's the actual numbers, the book was wrong,
Okay.
so.
It's minor.
I still
I think we
like,
can Figure it out, but yeah.
You don't want ending, I know,
I
but
don't know. These are not the kind of errors I'm comfortable with personally, so I apologize for that.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is, we should probably have a leaf stuff into the book.
Yep.
When we hand these out,
Okay.
just so it's in every single document when we hand this out to people.
Okay.
We've had to do it before,
Yeah.
don't worry.
Yeah. Minor.
It totals about $20,000 worth of change. Almost 30. Alright, in here I put in the Sheepscott Cemetery Gravestone Preservation Workshop.
Yep.
So the Maine Old Cemetery Association will be conducting a hands-on gravestone preservation workshop at Newcastle's Sheepscott Cemetery from June 13th through June 16th. registration for this event is closed, but the workshop will, and I gave a link to the explanation for MOCA. They're gonna offer its participants the opportunity to learn professional techniques in cleaning, repairing, and resetting historic gravestones under expert guidance. Yes, we have someone from New York to provide some of that expert guidance. So the road around the cemetery will be closed starting June 12th.
The road within the cemetery.
Within the cemetery, I'm sorry, yes, not around.
Yep.
Kings Highway will still be open, but the
Yep.
road that goes into the cemetery that loops through it.
Yep.
Is gonna be closed, because we have to put I don't have anywhere to put material, and I don't wanna put it on anybody's gravesite, so it will be in the road.
We need certain kind of gravel and loam and things like that for
Big tanks of
Resetting-
water.
resetting
John,
stone,
Yeah.
tanks of water for cleaning.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there'll be material placed on the 12th. In fact, the Porta John's being delivered Wednesday, material comes in on Thursday, the event starts Friday. So I'm just asking if you are a resident who is interested, wants to visit the cemetery, is planning to visit the cemetery, please just park on Kings Highway. Forward
With all the other cars.
with all the other cars for the volunteers who are gonna be there, or those participating in the workshop, but.
Have we let the neighborhood know or?
I will let I have a group
Okay, good.
email to send. so-
I've talked to the abutting,
Their butters know.
the ones right that close to where the work's gonna be happening,
Okay.
but I didn't know the people on the other side or across the street, so we.
I have a neighborhood email.
Okay.
Serve to send it to.
Perfect.
And again, MOCA respects those wishes of families of loved ones in the cemetery who don't want any of the work done, please contact the town office. 563-3441 if in advance, so you can opt out. And then lastly, Harriet Bird Community Cleanup Day. So the Harriet Bird Committee has the Harriet Gertrude Bird Clubhouse and Playground Committee. Is hosting a community cleanup day to help spruce up the shrubs, mulch, and get the clubhouse ready for another great season. So it's gonna be held on Saturday, June 21st, from 9 to 1. There's a flyer here that's posted up in town hall, and we'll be putting it around town. And then last is the manager, the financial report. We have 2 categories that are going a little above public services. A lot of that's tied to not properly budgeting for the mid-year increase on our responsibility for our transfer station, solid waste related. The other part is public works. Digging into it, because a lot of the payments for our typical spring services hit. So now I have a more realistic idea of what our budget looks like. We're currently a little over for the 11th month. I hope to be back in better graces for the end of our 12th month, but the biggest thing that we had was about a 42% over budget for salt. So we budgeted 80, we spent 113,000 on salt.
How many Powell events did we have this evening? No,
I don't know off the top of my head.
It was
we
a
had
lot.
significant.
it was a lot.
We had more than
It was in the 20s.
than a normal year.
Yeah.
So that's the unfortunate part. We were able to save a few bucks here and there, but I'll be coming to this board for the first the meeting after the annual town meeting. After the open meeting, to move a few things around just to make sure we're good and have them some moved into next fiscal year, so carry forward at least.
But overall,
Overall,
We're
we're
fine.
doing fine,
Yeah.
really. I always want to make sure our categories are at least break even, if not in the black a little bit. And we didn't have a code enforcement officer for a good portion of the year, so I have some funds there to address some needs, but overall, I think we're gonna be fine. Currently, I think we're 5.5% under budget. So that's $122,000 under budget.
not
Great.
bad out of that total budget.
Yeah, out of it, what's 3.5-ish million?
So the salt line item was over, but the public works category still got
Still have 45,000.
so it's not overdrawn. So-
No, it's not. It's just that
Right.
through the 11th month, we
Yeah.
are over what we would have
Right.
budgeted. If you were to just take the full budget, split it by 12 and multiply it by 11.
Yeah.
we are over. So I always look at that as a initial factor to say, where do I need to spend some time? Sure. Digging into the numbers.
Good.
All right,
Thank you for doing that.
I think that's it.
It will look different come July because I am dropping my Microsoft Word license. And I'm going fully Google Docs. As are almost all of the staff, we're keeping 2 licenses instead of having all of them. So things will look a little, we're gonna work on how they look and tweak them a bit sometimes.
What's the software you get to use then for something like that?
We use Google Workspace, and we have docs and sheets
Okay,
instead of Word and Excel.
so, yeah, okay,
I find the sheets is not as robust in terms of its capabilities, but it's more than enough for municipal use.
okay,
Different thing when I was doing statistical analysis with transportation data, but
yeah, okay,
it's fine for what we do here.
good.
And I will say that it's already recognized as a saving in this year's budget through softwares.
All right, anything else, anybody? We almost, it's 8:01.
Oh, that's my fault. No, it's Ben's fault for me.
Could have been,
I did-
yeah.
Well, mine.
We almost made it in under an hour. All right, then without objection, meeting is adjourned. 8:02. Didn't hit fast enough.
You need some